In the wake of a nationwide disaster, if there ever was a dollar collapse and the faith in established currencies waned, people may revert to the trading of precious metals and commodities. Before credit, fiat currency, coinage, and even precious metals, there was the barter system. In today's video, we are going to discuss 7 edible items that will be used as currency if and when money becomes worthless. So let's get to it. Barring precious metals, an ideal item for barter should have the following characteristics. It should be small and portable. It should have a high value density, that is, the most amount of value in the smallest package. It should have a long shelf life and if possible an indefinite one to avoid depreciation. It should be rare in the region that it's traded. Different countries will have an abundance of different things, and the value of certain commodities will vary. It should be multi-purpose in its uses. If possible, it should be something that's necessary for survival, as it will always have value. And if it's not necessary for survival, it should be something which is highly culturally valued. The first item on the list is cocoa. Now, in ancient Mayan culture, cocoa was revered as the drink of the gods. Only the elite of Mayan society could afford to drink it, and its seeds were actually used as currency. Now, in the present, cocoa, which is derived from cacao, is sold worldwide as the main ingredient in chocolate and hot cocoa powder. However, it is only grown in the southern continents, and as such, it's a rare commodity in North America. While sugar may be one of the most sought-after commodities after SHTF, cocoa will fulfill a similar niche but at an even higher premium. When intracontinental shipments stop, there will be no more cocoa in North America until a new trade route emerges. The other benefit of cocoa is that it does have a very long shelf life. Although the taste and potency may wane over time, it's suitable for consumption indefinitely. You will want to try to get a cocoa that has a low fat content and store it in mylar bags or glass jars with oxygen absorbers in a low humidity environment in order to preserve it the longest. In addition to the luxury of having chocolate after the grid goes down, cocoa may also have some health benefits. For perspective, it has 12 times the amount of antioxidants as blueberries. Up next is instant coffee. And the reason why instant coffee and not regular coffee, because regular coffee goes bad. 2.25 billion cups of coffee are drunk every day by people around the world. That's a bad habit that won't even take a break after the end of days. As indicated, normal coffee beans will spoil over time, so the only real option then for long-term storage, unless of course you live in a region where coffee beans are cultivated, is instant coffee. Instant coffee is essentially freeze-dried coffee that can last for decades. The process of freeze-drying the coffee removes all moisture from the coffee and creates a very shelf-stable product. Storing instant coffee long-term is quite simple. You can keep it in its original packing, keep it in a dry environment in an airtight container, preferably at a lower temperature, and you are good to go. Because even cannibals are going to want a fresh cup of coffee after it goes down. Up next are seeds. Now, seeds are probably the perfect barter item. They have the highest density to value ratio and thus are very easy to transport. They're going to store for a long time and they're going to be sought after by everybody. They also come in a wide variety. There's only one type of cocoa and one type of instant coffee, but there's hundreds of different types of seeds which can produce all sorts of different types of foods. In terms of the shelf life of seeds, a study called Seed Germination After 30 Years Storage in Permafrost found that when properly dried and frozen, most seeds, at least 80%, would still germinate after 30 years. Now, the main factor which inhibited seeds' ability to actually germinate after all this time was the high moisture levels at the start of the experiment. Seeds which were not thoroughly dried and had a high water content didn't germinate as well. You can check out this study through the link in the description. This means that pre-storage conditions are of major importance when we're talking about the shelf life of seeds, but this makes them a very stable and worthwhile barter item. Up next is one that's very popular and doesn't need any introduction in the preparedness community, and that is salt. Salt has been used as a form of currency throughout all of human history, and even the word salary itself, the word we use today to pay people, is derived from the Latin word salarium, which referred to Roman soldiers which were paid in salt. Now, some people ask, can't you just get salt from the ocean? Nowadays, you can. But prior to industrialization, it was an extremely expensive and labor-intensive process to harvest the mass quantities of salt necessary for food preservation and seasoning at the time. This made it a very valuable commodity. You need to remember that back in the day, there was no such thing as refrigeration. So if people wanted to prolong the storage of their food, they needed to use salt, especially in the case of meat. Thus, if a collapse scenario entailed a deindustrialization aspect, this may increase the value of salt once again, not counting the fact that many people live far from the ocean. Now, alcohol, like salt, has been used as currency throughout all of history, usually by the nobility to pay the peasant class. You could argue that not a whole lot has changed. Alcohol, like many things, can be manufactured with relatively primitive means. However, it still requires some measure of horticulture to be in place in order to harvest and ferment the grains and fruits for its creation. One of the more sinister aspects of alcohol is that you can also use it against your post-apocalyptic enemies. Get them drunk, and hey, they may even tell you where their stash is. Some of the pros of alcohol is that it's going to last a long time. It's a rare item that requires a bit of work and expertise to acquire, and it's multi-purpose. The only downside is, if people do find out that you do have alcohol, having to deal with the types of people who abuse this stuff may attract attention that you don't want. Up next is sugar. Now, both sugar and salt have been referred to as white gold. Currently, 2/3 of the world's sugar comes from sugarcane. During the years 1625 to 1750, some people say that sugar was worth its literal weight in gold, and that's why it's of course referred to as white gold, although many historians debate this and believe that that's a bit of a stretch. Nonetheless, it was still a prized commodity that was exceptionally rare at the time. Now, while sugar is easier to acquire in North America, it is still a more labor-intensive and specialized process than the acquiring of salt, but actually provides calories and thus sustenance. Even though it's going to throw your blood sugar out of whack, it's going to be more sought after by the average person. The average person in North America, I should add, who's been adapted to a sugar-based diet. Some would even say that the better part of North America is addicted to sugar, and for that reason, like any drug, it will be relentlessly sought after disaster strikes. The best thing about sugar is it can store indefinitely in the absence of humidity. Now, up next is honey. Honey is one of nature's rarest delights. Just like many of the aforementioned commodities, from ancient Egypt to medieval Germany, many people held honey as a high-value commodity. So much so that the lords of Germany used to force peasants to make them pay them in honey. It takes the nectar of 12 million flowers harvested by thousands of bees to make just 1 kilogram of honey. It lasts damn near forever, and it has numerous health benefits. It won't raise your blood sugar levels as fast as refined sugar, and refined sugar is essentially empty calories, whereas honey packs several different types of nutrients and antioxidants, which will help keep you mentally alert when you're fighting off armies of the undead. It also has numerous medicinal properties, too many to list in this video alone, including being used as a topical antibiotic ointment. There are many other forms of renewable currency in a grid down situation that you could use. Things such as, and not limited to, pepper, turmeric, baking soda, cigarettes, that green stuff that makes people feel kind of funny, ginger, various teas, soap, and even solar power for powering people's electronics. You could be the neighborhood power generation guy. So long as you can defend your outpost, that is. Let me know what other sorts of edible and renewable forms of currency you think will have value in a grid down situation. Notice the emphasis on edible and renewable. I'm well aware that there's 1,001 things that we can trade, from nails to ammunition, but I really want to know your thoughts on the edible forms of currency. Let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to check out this video where I talk about the 10 best survival foods, and stay tuned because the next 3 weeks, the main theme on this channel is going to be all about food storage, because you got to prepare for what's coming. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy this video. Canadian Prepper out. The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, your one-stop shop for premium, high-quality, brand-name products that have been tried and tested by myself and other YouTube gear reviewers. My subscribers save 10% off by using the coupon code SURVIVALPREPPER. All one word in all caps.